Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Cactus Lounge. I am Donna Reed. I traveled in Up with People in 1976, Cast A, and my guest this morning is Mallory Kidd. Mallory, say hi.
Hi. Hi.
And Mallory traveled in 2013, A and B. For those of you that don't know, at that point, casts were traveling by semesters, not,
Mhm.
they were 6 months at a time, right, Mel?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So let me ask you, when you started that year, it was
Mhm.
January, right? You guys
Mhm.
did you already know you were going to do the second semester, or was that a choice after you started traveling?
No, I'm pretty sure I had that decided. I think so. I'm pretty sure I did.
Okay.
I think so. That feels right. I mean, so long ago
So long
relatively. I already
ago.
forget. I know. I don't remember. I remember doing all my fundraising efforts, and I want to say it was specifically to do a full year. So,
Okay. Okay.
mhm.
And so I know your aunt and uncle, Grant and
Mhm.
Gretchen Axton.
Yep.
Did did your mom travel? Did your either of your parents
No,
travel?
my
Okay.
mom will always say, so I have to get it right, that she always wanted to travel and up with people. So because she couldn't, she was super supportive of making sure that Grant could travel, because Grant is 4 years younger than her.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you grew up with it in a sense, but
Mm-hmm.
you were living in Colorado, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And
Yeah.
where in Colorado?
Northern, up in Loveland, it's near Fort Collins.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And had you seen a show then as a young person, or when did you first learn about Up with People?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know that I could tell you when I learned about it because it was just always a part of us. Like we always had the Up with People Christmas albums that I loved. And I knew the term uppies probably before I even understood what it was. But really, what kind of sparked my personal interest in it is I was with Grant and Gretchen for a reunion. They were 87A, and they took me to a reunion with their daughters, mostly like to keep us occupied. We had some other family stuff that summer, and I just got bit by the bug and I decided to interview without even telling my
Your
parents
parents?
or even Grant and Gretchen. I just sat down with one of the current staff and decided to have an interview. And then I told Gretchen, and on that same trip, Gretchen went and helped me get my hair chopped off. And she was like, "Your mom is gonna hate me. I'm like signing you up for something different. You're chopping off your hair. I'm sending you home a different person." Um, but yeah, so I interviewed, and then I was originally supposed to travel fall of 2012, so B12,
Okay.
and I just couldn't get the funds together. By like, because like I had interviewed before my I want to say right before summer before my senior year of high school. So I
Okay.
had that whole year to prep for it. That would have been fall of 2011 or summer of 2011. Um, and yeah, and then my parents were just like, I don't think you're there yet. So why don't you wait another semester to start? Because it would have been B12, A13. So then
Instead
I
of
just started in January. Yeah. So my parents had me do some community college and work some more, just to really make sure that the funds were there. Because I did fundraise like a huge majority of how
what
much
did
it
you do?
cost.
What did you do to raise funds? Because you guys traveled, it was 17,000 a semester, I think, and like 24 if you
That
did the
sounds
whole
about
year,
right.
something like
Yeah,
that.
that sounds about right. And I was the first class of study abroad to complete the entire program.
Oh,
So we were the guinea pig class, but it was also, that was an added, I want to say like $300 a semester on top as well. I want to
so
say
you
three or
got
nine. I know it was under a grant, but yeah. So
so
we
you
had to
got
do that added
credits for
expense.
college
Correct. Yeah.
through what school? Through what at that point?
Florida Southern
Florida
University is who
Southern.
they're, yeah. Um, and it was an awesome, like one of the best parts of my program. I always tell people that was one of my favorite parts of Up with People. um but yeah, so for fundraising, I wrote a letter and I mailed it to everybody my parents and Grant and Gretchen could think of, because they knew sending I would have been like I it was under the guise of their legacy as well.
Yeah,
Later on, their daughter Gina traveled in 2017, and Janelle worked as staff in 2020.
that I remember.
She's part
Yeah.
of the 2020 cast, as a PR. So they ended up both working for Up with People as well. But I was the first by quite a bit. And so they were like treating me like their own little legacy, sending me out to all their casts and all their connections and everything. Because, Grant was on the board. They were like, she came to reunion last year, love to support her. So a lot of it was just like them giving me addresses, and I was just writing them out on envelopes and sending my little letter of explaining who I was and why I saw the value in Up With People. So I'd get like little checks here and there from that. A lot of my graduation money went towards that. Like any gifts that we got from friends or family went towards Up With People. I worked all through high school, and that summer before Up With People, I actually went and lived with some family in Aspen, Colorado, and worked at a country club up there, where I made some extra money for the summer.
Right.
I mean, I was doing everything. I was knitting things for people. I was making some like custom clay art like stuff. Like I was doing as many things as you could as an 18-year-old, because my parents were, they loved that there was an educational aspect of it, and they, made sure that I was still doing community college just for like my basic courses before I went to Up With People. So, but they were really supportive of me doing Up With People as my gap year as well. So they really helped me come up with a lot of ways.
So you said gap year just now,
Hmm.
and when I traveled, we didn't talk about that. It was
Hmm.
it was so I had turned 18, like my birthday's in a couple weeks, and 2 weeks
Hmm.
later I left for Up With People. So
Wow.
yeah, there was no gap year. It just wasn't a phrase that was used,
Right. Well,
that
now it's
yeah,
used as a gap between college. So it could
yeah,
either be, but for me, it was weird because I had already started college, right?
right.
I did a semester of community college, and so I was confused. I was like, technically, it's a gap year in the middle of college, but I didn't know what college I wanted to go to. I didn't know what I wanted to study, which is also why I wanted to do Up With People. Before I had interviewed, I was like softly accepted to a college in Nebraska that I was, going to go to this itty bitty Christian college. Thought I knew wanted to study. And then after I interviewed and saw kind of how big the world was, I was like, oh, maybe I need to explore a little bit more. And so a big part of doing Up With People was the appeal of having so many castmates at so many different phases of life. I mean, even I met Caleb. Caleb was post grad, correct, when he
Yeah,
went?
yeah,
I think so.
he was one of the
Right.
oldest. He was 26.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he and a couple others had fully graduated. I actually looked at Northern Arizona University because of Caleb, because I was curious about it, and he loved it. And so that was a great thing, was I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. And I don't think any 18-year-old really does, and you
No,
spend all this money.
I had that discussion. I had that discussion with someone the other day. I can't remember
Hmm.
why, what prompted it.
Hmm.
But when you graduate from high school and you're the oldest, because like, oh, now there's freshmen and it's 4 years
Hmm.
different and stuff, you feel like you know a lot. You
Right.
feel like because you're the leaders, you're the winners, you just did this thing. And then you go to Up With People and there's all ages and
Hmm.
you're traveling the world. And I just think that it's a growth that it occurs with college. It does. I'm not saying it
Sure.
doesn't occur,
Hmm.
but in a whole different way with
Yeah. No, I mean, I always said through my whole college experience that like I would not have been as good of a student. And I was never a great student. I'm a great talker. I am a good negotiator. I am not good at test taking or self-time management. Like that was never a strength I had. And so to be in Up With People that was so structured to the minute, it was structured, but they were also like, this is our schedule and you must keep it. And that kind of pressure. And then also doing a low stakes environment of a very collaborative educational setting with the Up With People program really encouraged me to create whatever rhythm it is in a busy life to still get my homework done. Like, yes, we were doing everything that every other cast member did of community service and the show and the setup and the teardown and time with our host family. And we were doing
homework.
12 credits a semester. We were doing a full-time college student load as
That's what
well.
it, okay. So tell me, so you had 3 classes, 4 classes,
Three
three,
classes, yeah. And they were
and
taught by two professors. So one professor
okay,
did two and one did the other.
on the road with you or virtual?
Virtual. So one was Pete Anderson. He is, I couldn't tell you what year he went, but he's an Up With People alumni, very well
Okay.
known, very well loved. And then the other one was Teresa, and she was actually a professor from FSU that they had. Was it FSU or FSC? It might have been Florida Southern College, now that I'm saying it. I think
Okay.
it was college, not university. Sorry. Um, and she was from there. And so our first semester was the semester that got to do staging in Lakeland, Florida,
Yep.
because they wanted the like FSU to create a relationship with Up With People. We were able to interview more students there. We were able to have full access to the campus. Because we even had student IDs from there, so we could get anywhere
Wow.
as the study abroad students. And the professor, so we had the first, we went out a week early, and the whole week was just school stuff, getting to know each other, getting to know our professors, the syllabus, everything like that. And then they came back. I want to say, well, we had Teresa the whole time. I want to say Pete came back the last week of staging, and then like our third or fourth week on the road while we were in Florida, we were in Orlando when he came back for like midterms, if you will. And they did that every semester. They would come back for midterms and they'd come back for finals. So we'd see them towards the end of the semester. It was usually 2 weeks, I think,
Okay.
before the semester
Okay.
closed, so that we could finish school early and really enjoy our like last week or two with the cast and not have to worry about school stuff.
How many of you
Um,
were there that were doing this? I mean, was there like
I want to
five of
say
you
it
or
was
20 of you or,
maybe a dozen. I think my first semester was 8 or 10,
okay.
and my second semester was no more than 12, I want
So
to
you
say.
came out with 24 credits.
Yeah. I went in because of my one semester at community college and those 2 semesters on the road. I came into college as a sophomore, as a transfer sophomore,
That's awesome.
which was awesome because I was also going to college at almost 20 starting college. And I was like, oh no, if I have to be with all the freshmen and do all the freshman orientation stuff, I was like, I don't want to do that. I felt so grown up. I felt like I experienced so much and grew so much on the road. I was like, I'm ready to just dive in. I don't need the college transition, if you will. I spent a whole year of learning how to transition into
Transition.
adulthood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so yeah, it was really
Interesting.
nice. Hmm.
So it's interesting you say that because I traveled 76, 77, worked at a dude ranch, went to Europe, and I started college
Nice.
at 20. And
Hmm.
I found that I hung out with the older kids, just
Hmm.
that little bit,
Hmm.
that couple of years difference. My roommate was not a freshman. She had
Hmm.
come from a
Right.
college in Iowa,
Hmm.
and stuff. And when I think of that now, because you and Caleb have stayed pretty good friends, and
Hmm.
one of the things that he and I have talked about, especially after your first reunion, the 5 year, and he
Hmm.
was like, that's where you guys won the game, right? Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys were the
Yeah, the very contentious win.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But what we talked about, he goes, Mom, it wasn't like all my closest friends on the road and so and so. And I said, well, you're
Hmm.
going to learn over time that those relationships change some,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that you become closer to others. And it's not the same as when you were on the road and all of that.
Hmm.
And now with him living in Denver, that
Hmm.
the friends have been those who were predominantly older. Like he
Hmm.
was older than they were when they traveled. He was older than
Right.
mom. He was, um, and then the contingency that he has met through being in
Hmm.
Denver, right?
Right.
So you were one of the younger ones that
Hmm.
his and I know he still he goes to see Abby in shows and
Hmm.
things like
Well,
that.
yeah, like what's funny is Caleb, Caleb had so much growth on the road, and he knows this. I'm not spilling any tea. That like our second semester, he had such a great growth, and like first semester, he was the class clown. He was very loud and bubbly and everything, and some people
Annoying
were
to
like,
some.
well, okay, I wasn't going to use the word, but
I've
mom
heard
said it,
it.
so
I've
that's
heard
fine.
it.
And our second semester, I mean, we had an interesting experience with our second semester as the first semester where they were so tight knit and they had such this like extreme experience their first semester going to Asia and everything. Um, that we felt a little shut off from them because they were so bonded in an internal
Oh,
way. And so our second semesters, we tried really hard to be a united front in an external way to make sure that we were trying to be the leaders and setting the example of kind of what we wished we would have seen more of,
hmm.
because like we loved all of the second semesters. It wasn't like an us and them vibe, but it just kind of felt like there was this little bit of a wall there sometimes
Interesting.
that we couldn't broach. And so we really wanted to make sure that we were an integrated cast. We weren't the first semesters and second semesters. Um, we
Interesting.
really wanted it to feel cohesive. And Caleb and I both talked about how we kind of feel like overall we were closer to our second semester as a cast. But more of my personal friend, like you talk about who we've been stayed friends with longer, most of them are actually from my first semester. Like I
Yeah,
was
I
college
see.
roommates with Kinsey and Tara,
Yeah, yeah,
Abby was
I
only
see
in
your
my first
pictures.
semester.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who you shared
Um,
spaces with, and yeah,
right.
things like that. Yeah.
And so it's very different, but we as a company, I remember our like first meeting as second semester was like first week of staging or something. And we were like, we really want to prioritize making everybody feel welcome, trying to not be clicky with each other, trying to really, branch out and use each other for support when we want to, but really trying to be leaders, in the company. And I think that made a huge difference.
That's
But I,
awesome.
I loved both my semesters and they were so different, which was also so awesome to experience.
Yeah, we had the whole year, but
Hmm.
people left, and then this group they were going to Latin America, so the everybody that spoke Spanish would leave, and things like that. We had
Interesting.
a little
Okay.
bit
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that, but predominantly it was still the same group,
Right.
who
Hmm.
started in July. So when I saw you last fall when we were in
Hmm.
New York,
Yeah.
and when did you decide or make the decision to pursue the path that you have chosen? Tell everybody kind of what you do and what took you there.
uh, so I went to college in Denver to study costume, hair, and makeup design for theater. And my roommates were all uppies for the first year, and then I stayed with Tara and Kinsey through all 4 years of college,
Wow.
who were castmates for my cast A. And we had this amazing alumni community there. We were having people over for um, dinners and game nights and whatnot. And, I met Caleb's fiance and got to know her separately when
Yeah,
they were just, dating because she moved up to Denver first. And so
right.
Caleb was like, hey, this girl I like is moving to Denver.
Like
Can you
yeah,
hang
yeah.
out with her? Did I call her fiance? His wife. And we were just like, yeah, of course. And we loved Jess. I remember telling Caleb, you better not mess this up because we really like her.
Oh,
So, and so deciding to move, so I moved to New York, literally packed up my house on the same week I was graduating college because our landlord had decided to not renew the lease. And even though two of my roommates were staying together, they had to find a new place to be. And it was kind of at that crossroads where it was like basically once our landlord said he wouldn't be renewing our lease, which he probably gave us 3 months notice because maybe even four. I think he gave us a really long notice to figure it out. In that final semester of school, I was like, okay, well, what am I doing? Am I graduating college to then go work at Starbucks? Am I moving back home? Am I moving to a new place with these girls? And I had done some like really awesome summer internship opportunities across the country over the last 3 summers, met a ton of people who lived and were based in New York. And I was like, I think I want to be based in New York. I had set out a goal to be able to use my degree as my main source of income within a year of graduating college.
that's a big goal in the
And
arena
it is,
it's
yeah.
in. Yeah.
And especially in the arts. And
Yeah.
so I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go to the Mecca of theater, which is New York City, because I was touring with Seattle and Chicago as well. So
Yeah.
I just kind of decided. I reached out to a couple friends who were already here that I met through contracts, and one of them suggested a nannying agency that I joined. So I had work to move out here. Um, I did not have enough money saved, man. Whenever I talk to anybody who wants to move to New York, I was like, "Can we talk about how much you have saved?" Because I doubt you have enough. That's
No matter what it
because
is,
that was
it's probably
hard. Yeah,
yeah.
I had been living so independently, and then having to ask my parents to be like, "Hey, I need some help financially. I did not plan well. Sorry." And I paid them up. I was very adamant about paying them back because I was like, this was my mistake. Sorry. Um, but yeah, I just kind of decided it. And then I just remember like telling my roommates, I was like, I think we're gonna move to New York. And they're like, okay, okay. Little girl who's never left Colorado except for up with people.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, but I don't think I would have been comfortable making that decision without up with people, and like having moved to other places for the summer. I lived in Wichita, Kansas. I lived in Logan, Utah. Um, Having done that, even just for a few months, also like made moving a little less scary.
Yeah.
So I packed up my whole house. I was literally living out of my, I owned a minivan at that time. So I was living out of my minivan for the last week of college in my roommate's new house. Cause of course our lease was done like the week of graduation.
Ooh.
So I was doing finals and everything while living on a blow up mattress. I was so sick. And my parents, like, they came out a week before to help me move and everything. And it was just crazy. And then I, did my graduation party at their new house. They hosted it for me, my roommates. And then I drove up to Loveland, an hour north. And the next day, I think my mom and I, did we leave that day?
Left for New
Oh,
York.
maybe I was going to Wichita, Kansas again for the summer. And then I left for New York. I came back to Colorado in like August and then immediately went to New York from there.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I was like, I had found a friend through Kansas, a girl that I was working with, and she was like, "I'm moving to New York in the fall." I was like, "Hey, me too. Do you want to be roommates?" And we didn't really know each other that well, and it just worked out. Like I went out there a little bit early, lived with one of my best friends who are up with people in New Jersey for like 2, 3 weeks with her and her new husband in their house, and was apartment hunting for us. And I
Nice.
just found a place, and and then the
That's where
girl that
you
I.
were. That's where
Mhm.
you were until you just moved to New Jersey, right? Were you in that
So I
same place?
No, no,
Oh, okay.
my roommate
Okay.
and I, so the girl who I found that was a total, shot in the dark,
Yeah.
her and I are now best friends. We've lived together for 7 years. And I just moved with my partner into New Jersey, but we had lived in 3 different boroughs in New
Oh, okay.
York
I didn't.
before in the last 8 years. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I just moved to Jersey with my partner in January.
Yeah. Yeah. Your
Mhm.
partner, show everybody your engagement ring.
Oh, that's my engagement ring.
Yeah.
Engagement ring.
Yeah. Grant messaged me. He goes, she's engaged. I'm like, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was watching you like, I'm going to move. I need to get rid of things, or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
Mallory, one of the things that I admire about you is I watch, I don't know if they're TikTok or Reels. I don't know. I don't know where, I'll be like, but you have been super out there about finances. You've
Hmm.
talked about financial planning
Hmm.
and stuff, and you I also like because I'm, believe it or not, doing TikTok, and I kind of don't
Hmm.
care what I look like all the time. I
Hmm.
don't care if I look, and you come in and you're just you. You're just
Hmm.
you. You were very open about your surgery a few years
Hmm.
ago
Hmm.
and what that was for you and what that meant for you. And I think I wrote a book. Had I written the book
Hmm.
when I saw? Okay.
Yeah.
So part of that is about communication and about sharing
Hmm.
stories. And
Hmm.
as that evolves for me, I think you are one of those people. You share
Hmm.
your stories and you share the good parts, the not so good parts,
Hmm.
the challenges and all of that. And in this world of Zoom and Facebook and TikTok and chat, blah, 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 all the stuff,
Hmm.
um, I believe that you are using it in a good, strong way.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that. There's not that many from Caleb's cast that I follow, but you're
I
I
appreciate
watch
that.
him and the boys do their thing, which
Yeah.
I think I told you, and I've been talking to some of the alumni here. I go, I've interviewed a bunch of guys lately. I need to interview some women,
That's fair.
and especially your age group.
Hmm.
And, you think about where we are, and it's easier now for retirees to find time
Hmm.
to talk to me, right? But
Hmm.
those of you
Hmm.
that are in the thick of things,
Right.
yeah, can't necessarily do it. And especially if I'm looking at a time difference of, it's one thing to do the East Coast, it's another to do Europe, it's another to do Asia,
Hmm. Hmm.
and figure out what works. So the when I have seen you and watched online, you've worked in several productions, kind of long term. Do
Hmm.
you do wigs and makeup? Like, is it a variety? What all have you done for these shows?
Sure. So I guess I should explain what I do, which is I currently work on Broadway as a wardrobe person. So when I moved out here, I have a background in both. I have a degree for both. However, in New York, and anytime you're working in a union, I'm a union member, um, you have to pick. So wardrobe is different than hair and makeup.
Right.
And hair and makeup, I needed to have my Cosmo license. And I was like, no, I just finished school. I don't want to go back to school. And I really felt like strongly about doing wardrobe. But when I first moved out here, doing off Broadway and smaller theaters, you do both. And so I loved having the opportunity to use all those skills. However, when I wanted to further my career and have something more reliable, sustainable, gives me benefits, yada, yada, I really leaned into doing wardrobe. And so I've been doing that since 2019, full time, just wardrobe. I haven't touched hair or makeup since.
Mm,
And yeah, and so I just decided to do that, and I've worked on some amazing productions. I mostly work as what's called a swing dresser, which
okay.
is kind of like a substitute. So you've got your full-time company, crew, everything, and just like how all the actors have swings off stage, everybody in the crew, from the lighting operator to the dressers to, the stagehands,
That's
all have swings, which do not belong to one building. The actors do. The actors live in that building. That's their one contract. But the technicians' swings, we are not beholden to one show. And we come
Mm,
in and we fill in when somebody is sick, somebody has a vacation, somebody wants a random Tuesday off, for whatever reason you take off work, the show still must go on 8 times a week, 6 days a week. And so we come in, and just like actors learn choreography, we learn the tracking. We learn you go to stage right for this number and you change this person. And then you pick up those costumes, you take them here, so on and so forth. So we call those tracks, just like actors have different tracks. We have those as well backstage. So I can work on multiple shows. I can learn multiple tracks within the show. Um, and then, so if you're full time, you just do one job, same job every day. It's Groundhog Day. And I
okay.
did that for 18 months on A Beautiful Noise, the Neil Diamond musical.
Yeah.
I dressed the leading ladies, and I did that for 8 shows a week for 18 months. And it was a
Did it
little
get
too
boring?
monotonous for me. It
Yeah.
did.
Okay.
It did. And when I get bored, I get sloppy.
Mm,
So, not to say anything ever went wrong. I just feel like, as the person who is attention to detail, I just let things slip through the cracks. You all do. Um, and workplace dynamics get really interesting when you're with each other that much. And to be a wardrobe person, you see somebody at their most vulnerable because you're literally seeing them strip down,
yeah.
like physically, mentally, emotionally. We're the ones who know the temperature that you prefer your water, who can tell that you're getting sick or feeling a little bit like you're leaning on an injury before you even notice. Like, we're so in tune with the performers that we're working with that it can be it can blur the lines a little bit emotionally of like, how much of their emotional stress am I putting on myself?
So
Um,
I want to interject here.
yeah.
So, the hair piece I get, but when you said wardrobe in my brain, I
Hmm.
was thinking when I did costumes for Up With People and I
Hmm.
made clothing. I made the Roaring Twenties dresses and things like that.
Right.
So do you make anything or is it the responsibility of making sure the actors or actresses are dressed?
Great question. So you can do either.
Okay.
Most people, again, it becomes more and more specific, right? So there's costuming world, but then there's a designer, there's a dresser, there's a tailor, there's somebody who specifies in making hats and making shoes. They're all actually very specific, different jobs.
Okay.
And I specify in running the show, being backstage, taking care of the actors. I have a like, I can build costumes. I don't really care to.
Yeah.
So I do more repairs. So there's also like day-to-day repairs that, you make sure snaps are good. If a seam was blown out,
Somebody
if,
tore their, yeah. Yeah.
exactly, we help make sure that. But even on every Broadway show, there is an in-house stitcher who, most of the time, if it's quicker than a hand stitch, you run it down to them and they'll take care of it as long as it's not needed in the moment. Um, so they really do make sure that you're not doing a million jobs. They're trying to make sure that each person only wears one hat. And so the hat that I wear the most is making sure the show runs the same every night and that the actors are taken care of. Like that's my main goal.
So when you go, I had a job the summer of 77 at a dude ranch, and I was called the
Hmm.
relief girl, which meant that I did everybody's job on their days off. So 2 days a week,
Right.
I did kitchen, I cooked. 2 days a week, I
Hmm.
cleaned cabins, and 2 days a week, I don't even remember what I did. But
Sure.
but for me, that was good. I liked rotating. I
Hmm.
liked not
Yeah.
doing the same thing every day.
Hmm.
So when you go in and somebody needs a Tuesday off
Hmm.
and you're available,
Hmm.
how much advance time do you have to even pay attention to things? I have to watch the clock. We have 9 minutes.
Good.
Like how uh, you come into a show that you haven't been to.
Hmm.
What is
Well,
your
okay,
what's your
so
learning
that's
curve?
right. Every show you do get learning. So they try to preemptively train you. So they'll, a new show opens, they have 7 dressers. Ideally, each one of those dressers has somebody who can cover. Now, I could cover all 7 tracks, but I can only do one track at a time. So they'll bring in different people. Usually you get 3 shows. Most shows are 3. If it's a really complicated show, you'll get a fourth. And you'll be backstage with the dresser who does the show. You'll
Okay.
be shadowing them, and then you'll get hands on while they're kind of like talking over your shoulder. to make sure that you get it. And so you get those
Like an
4 times.
internship.
Correct. But you do it in four, runs. And then
Hmm.
after that, you are responsible for being able to do that show. I've gotten calls. I got a call the other day that a dresser was doing her pre-show, so which was an hour and a half before the curtain rises, and she bonked her head really hard, and she had to go to the hospital to get treated for a concussion. And I get a call, and I am like in my sweatpants. I usually around like 5 p.m. I'm like, cool, I'm not working anywhere tonight, whatever. And I get a call, hey, she went down. We need somebody here. And I was like, you're already in your call. What do you mean? I would like, if I was going to be there, I would have been there 10 minutes ago. She was like, can you get here before curtain? And I was like, yeah, let me throw on some real pants. And so I threw on pants and I went,
Wow.
and it was a track that I know and I've been trained on. So I just slipped in and it was fine. It was a little
Wow.
rushed in the beginning, but whatever. So it can be as little notice as that. It can be the morning of, somebody wakes up sick, they text their boss, they text me. It could be somebody, I've got work at the end of July that I already know about. So it really just depends on the instance,
Got it.
the more urgent, immediate, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's the wardrobe team, the supervisor's job specifically to hire preemptively to be like, all right, you need to have somebody who can cover you. God forbid you fall down the stairs and break your neck, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Interesting. So,
Hmm.
as we sort of wrap this up, do you feel like your time in Up with People then guided you into knowing you
Hmm.
wanted to do this? Did
Oh
you?
yeah,
Yeah.
a hundred
Okay.
percent. I mean, like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to go to school for pre-med, which is crazy. Um, and I actually found my university because of my friend Tara. She was like, "Hey, I go to Metro State in Denver. You should go here, and then we could be roommates." And I was like, "Okay." I applied for the school while I was in Denmark. My mom was like, I would like email my mom questions, and then she would call during normal business hours because we were 8 hours difference.
Yeah.
She would call and ask the questions, email me back the answers. So I registered for college sight unseen. Abby Kochever took me to the campus about a week before school started because I wasn't in town early enough for orientation. And she gives me a map. And we start at the student center and she goes, orientate yourself. I've got a couple classes. I'll see you in like 3 hours. And I'm like, okay. So I literally was wandering around campus, figuring it out by math. Like that's two uppies right there that helped me guide
Yeah.
into that. And then you know, post college, I just feel like Up with People is such it's an insane model, right? To live by. Like I think about what we were talking about that at our last reunion like 2 years ago. And I was like, how did we do that? I genuinely don't know. And I think
Oh,
about
yeah.
Caleb I mean, I was fresh faced at 18, 19, and Caleb was already had lived through college and everything. I was like, how did you do that at
Yeah, but he's
26?
still a 12-year-old inside and he knows
That's
like,
true.
yeah,
That's very true. Um, so I
Yeah.
think that like Up with People just like really kind of throws you in the trenches and like you don't sugarcoat your experience with Up with People. You don't sleep, you eat weird food, your brain is constantly moving with languages and whatnot, and you're doing something different every
Every day.
day.
Hmm.
That the minute you get a little bit of like a simpler routine, I was like, oh, this is easy. Like I went to college and I was like, you mean I just have to go to classes from
This is
like
this is really all
10
I
to
have to
3?
do today.
Yeah, I was like, great, and I still like piled my plate way too high with two extra
Yeah.
jobs and working in the theater department and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I mean, I talked to so many of my castmates on the road of like, well, what did you value in your college experience? When I was talking about what college I wanted to go to, my all of my castmates were like, I think that's too small for you. I think you're gonna regret going somewhere of like an entire student body of 1,200 after having this like worldly experience. You
Yeah.
deserve to go somewhere that's more rich and everything like
Yeah.
that. And I appreciate that. I can like think of
Okay.
like all of the people.
We have
Yeah.
4 minutes. I'm going to ask you one
Okay. What do
question
you
because
need?
I
Yeah.
asked Caleb this, like what his best memory. What is your favorite experience that you had on the road? For him, it was the teepee and playing soccer in Mexico. What was it for you?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I wish you would have asked me that earlier.
I'm
I don't have
sorry.
an answer. That's okay. Um, I feel like it's hard to say one answer, and I know that that's a cop out, but truly, I think my favorite part was the study abroad experience and those
Okay.
people. Like, I had my first mental breakdown with those people, and like, it makes me giggle thinking about it. I literally had a breakdown during class, and like, we had such special experiences because they put us in really weird places to have our day of education. And it was so fun. Like we got to explore some really random buildings together because we had no fear. And we're like, let's just go down this hallway during lunch, like whatever.
Yeah.
And I truly think that that gave me such a unique experience on the road that the rest of the majority of the cast didn't even experience.
And you
So,
would And I would venture to guess that coming from
Mhm.
Loveland and doing what you did, and even Wichita isn't big and stuff, but then you're like, oh, it's New York. It'll be fine, at some
Right.
level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I found being in places like Mexico City and whatnot, I was like, oh, I like big cities. I'm not scared by them.
Yeah.
I have a respect for them. I'm not
Right.
stupid,
Right.
but I love them. I love the energy of a big city. I
Yeah.
always tell people, I'm like, Colorado's a great place to visit. It was not for me to live, though.
Yeah.
You know,
Funny.
yeah.
All righty. Thank you so much for doing this today. I
Yeah,
just
my pleasure.
greatly appreciate it. And if you think of people that you met, you mentioned Dan Dan Anderson, somebody that who is
Pete
the
Anderson.
Pete
Yeah.
Anderson.
Hmm.
Somebody that did that kind of a job that is an alumni, I
Yeah.
think would be interesting to interview for
Oh,
this.
yeah.
And
Hmm.
that's I've been starting to ask people, who do you know that had a maybe different or unique experience? And I have to
Yeah.
believe that his would be different, being,
Yeah.
the teacher and stuff like that. So
Yeah. I would. Yeah. I think that would be a great person for you to
awesome.
interview.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your
All right.
time. I'm going to end the recording, and
You're welcome.
we're probably I've got a couple others that are coming out, so you're
Sure.
probably in a few weeks. I'm trying to do two a month, and
No worries. Sounds good.
congratulations on your engagement. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Always great to see you.
Nice to see you too. Have a good day.
Thanks.